Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the first video recording I'm going to be doing on my blog here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that we're seeing in Universal Windows Platform from 8.1, focusing on the three that myself and Kat, a colleague of mine who wrote most of this code and has hosted this already on her blog in a blog reader format, believe are some of the most important that are coming to the new Universal Windows Platform. Those three are going to be a relative panel, split view, and state triggers. And there's an example we're going to walk through how to do that in Visual Studio right now for all of you to see. So again, thanks to Kat for building this demo out and allowing me to do it as a video. So let's go ahead and get started. Right now I have Visual Studio open, 2015 release candidate. The new one is going to be coming up here in a few days on July 20th, right before the July 29th Windows 10 update. So what I've done is I've just gone ahead and created a new project, and you can see in my templates here I'm on Visual C#, and they have this blank app here for the Windows Universal. It's not only C# that's available here as a template. We could also go into Visual C++. Again, the Windows Universal is right there, as well as even JavaScript. So if you're a web developer or feel more comfortable in JavaScript HTML, feel free to jump over here and grab this blank app and do that as well. Also have examples of that listed all over online. So we have this Windows Universal app. We're just going to go ahead and name this our first Universal Windows Platform app. I'm going to go ahead and create that. And that's going to go ahead and create our application in the background to where we're going to develop our application. When we get started, we're going to be beginning with a relative panel. So what is a relative panel? A relative panel is going to allow us to set shapes. So we can set a single shape, maybe to the top left corner, and then we can, all of the rest of the shapes we can build off of that left shape, so that if we rotate or move our device, that the orientation of those objects is going to remain the same. Alright, so we're going to have our project opened up right here. So now we've opened up into the app.xaml code space, and we're just going to go ahead and jump over to the main page here. We jump over to the main page and we'll see that the designer is going to be loaded up here, where it's going to create our canvas for us to begin to design and build our project on. So if we start by adding a little XAML here, it's important to notice our grid background here. This is where most of our code is going to be inputted into this grid that we have defined out here. Also important to look up here and see that we're targeting a 5-inch phone right now, but there's many other devices that we could be targeting and designing too. So if we just start really simple and go ahead and build a square, we're not quite into the reactive panel yet, and sorry, we're going to do a rectangle. So we build this rectangle out, and we just go ahead and put this right in the middle, so I'll give it a name here. We'll call that rectangle 1. We're going to give it a color. We'll start with red. And we'll also give it a height of 100. And a width also of 100. So let's take a look at what that rectangle is going to go ahead and go out there for us. Now remember that these pixels that I put in here, this 100 and 100, that's going to be effective pixels. So that's not necessarily the exact pixel size, but it's going to be the effective pixel, where the Windows will go ahead and take care of that on the back end to allow you to scale up or down for your devices, allowing that build once, deploy anywhere mentality. So you see we've created this rectangle. It's popped up here in the middle of the canvas, and it's just that easy to define these rectangles. We're going to go ahead and put a little bit of code over top of this right now that adds a couple more rectangles and builds our relative panel. So I've gone ahead and copied this over, and you'll see that now what I've done is I've created this nice Windows logo here, where we've given the rectangles here, the red one, and then everything else is based off of where that red rectangle lives. So as we rotate the phone here in this example, we'll go ahead and see what that looks like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. So you can see up here we have our debug. We can choose our different platforms. We can deploy to our local machine. We can simulate our machine locally. But we're just going to go ahead and start here with this emulator for a 4-inch phone. So let's go ahead and play that. And we'll see this is going to pop up here and show us exactly what our application would look like in our phone. So these emulators come right with the .NET SDK, so you don't have to do too much to get these installed. You just, as you install Visual Studio and begin to develop these applications, you just go ahead and choose that as a downloadable piece. So we're registering our application, and our emulator has popped up here now, running new Windows 10, and we'll see in this phone that we now have this awesome Windows logo here. So what happens if we rotate this? You'll see that everything maintains a similar or exact layout as we rotate this phone around. So let's get this back to normal and take a look at this. So you can see, unfortunately, our yellow box here is outside of our phone. So let's fix that by adding a scroll viewer if necessary. So just shut down my emulator there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a scroll viewer to our reflective panel. So let's take a look here. This scroll viewer, which again is going to be necessary for our relative panel. You can see here we've added this scroll viewer. We've made the auto visibility, so if it's there it'll show up, if it's not it won't. And we've also enabled zoom mode, and this is going to allow us to be able to just use our intuitive pinch gestures in order to actually zoom in and out of our application. So we've added in that scroll viewer at the bottom there, and we're going to go ahead and play this again so we can investigate what that looks like and make sure that it shows up right in our phone. Our phone now is loading up, and we'll see our application added to it shortly. So you haven't seen this emulator before. We have multiple inputs that we can classify here. You have your pointer input, single point touch, and a double point touch. So you can see how that zooming in and out is going to look. So let's, I like the multi-touch input. It gives you these awesome 2 dots that you can pull in and out, allowing you to scale your application and zoom in and out as necessary. So our application is now being shown, and we can see we can zoom in and out on this. If we're zoomed in there, we can scroll left and right, and everything on our application works as expected. Well, let's see what happens if we go ahead and toss this on our local machine. So we go ahead and run this here on our local machine. You'll see that our scroll viewer isn't actually necessary here. So it should not show up since our entire Windows application is going to be able to be shown within this device size. So Windows is taking care of this on the back end, right? So we don't have to scroll here. We don't have anything going on because it fits fine in our application. All this from the same code base. Pretty sweet. But we have more to show. So that's a relative panel, showing us how you can add a relative panel and a scroll view to create what you see there. So next, we're going to be showing the split view. And you might ask, what is a split view? So split view is kind of our hamburger control, or how we handle our hamburger control, and it allows us to create an interface that includes the ability to pop out a column. So we have here the code that I've just pasted in that's going to allow us to do that. So we start with our split view button. Oops. Invalid markup here. And there's our split view relative panel added in. So we'll see that now we have this awesome little hamburger guy over here in our title. So if we look at what's going on, we've added the button here, and we have then adding we have a button and we have a text block. So our app title goes here. So let's look at awesome UI with XAML. Doesn't quite fit. So now we see we've created a split view here. We've assigned it a open pane length. We've said it's going to go with the split button, and we've also assigned what exactly is going to be within that. So we've added a background button with some pictures, a lock screen, and a lock button. And then we've also added a camera button. So whenever we are going to use the button here, split view button click, we need to define what's going to happen. So let's go over to our main page.xaml.cs and add in a function main page.xaml.cs, and we will add our function here that's going to allow us to open up that hamburger menu or split view. So what we're going to do is whenever that button is clicked, we're just going to change the current state of the isPaneOpen variable. So that's all you have to do to set up the split view and begin to have it work. So let's start by looking at what this does on our local machine. This application's booting up, and we'll see here that we're going to have the hamburger menu that's going to open up with our awesome UI with XAML, and we'll see that, oh, look at that. We have this new list view that opens up, or split view, sorry, that opens up here, pushing all of the content over to the right. This is great on a big screen like this, but when we start looking at what happens on a smaller screen, so let's go back to our emulator and run it on our emulator, we might see a little bit of issues because it's pushing off almost all of our content right off the side of the phone. So when we open this up and we create that split view, we're not having quite the desired effect because everything is just going to be pushed right off the screen there. And maybe we want to change how that works in a smaller environment. So that's going to bring us to the third and one of my favorites, because it allows for a lot of customization within your application, is actually the adaptive layout state triggers. So what that basically means is that we can do different triggers depending on what our layout looks like, whether it's a wide layout or a small layout, and actually choose what's going to happen depending on what size of screen we're working with. So let me grab this code and move it over and then explain exactly what it's going to do so that we can see it in action. So at the end of this relative panel before the grid, I'm just going to paste in that code that's going to create us a Visual State Manager, Visual State Group, and this is going to create two for us. I'll bring this up so we can see it at once. We're going to have a wide layout and a narrow layout, and we'll see that we have this adaptive trigger built in. So this is going to take our minimum window width, and if it's 600, we're going to go ahead and just say that we can do our split view. We're going to do it inline, and we're going to show the pane open as true. And then we can have here a narrow length. When the minimum window width is 0, we're actually going to be able to make this as an overlay, meaning that this split view is going to overlay directly on to our squares and not push it over to the side, so that we can see not a big difference on the smaller device, and gives us that little bit better user experience. So let's start this up and see exactly what happens. So in our 5-inch device, we'll see, oh, we can open this up, and that goes directly on top of our Windows logo here. So boom, and it's over top. Background, lock screen, camera, all easily able to be used. Another thing to notice is that we've just gone ahead and wrapped this title box to fit within, and allowed us still to have that scroll view and our ability to do zoom. So let's go ahead and stop this and see what it looks like on our local machine. So it boots up on our local machine, and we'll be able to see our entire UI here, and we just go ahead and start with that right open. So you already have it open. It's all built within the screen, looking great from the moment you open it up, depending on what screen size it is. And that's cool because we haven't even done any custom code really, other than these. You could call Visual State Group a little bit custom because we're managing for different applications, but it's all still that same binary. So you write once and it runs on multiple different locations. So that's really cool. And that's completely unique to Windows 10 right now and something I find pretty exciting. Well, one other piece of useful information. I just gave this to a meetup talk about mobile development design, and one of the questions that came up was, well, how do I do something for the phone and not for the desktop? For example, your camera hardware buttons. How would you go ahead and add that and get that into there so you could interface with those application buttons? It's as simple as just adding a reference here. You add your reference, you go to your Windows Universal. We're going to look at extensions. So if you've watched in the other videos, you'll see there's different SKUs that are built on top of core. And we just can choose here our mobile extension or our desktop extension, your IoT extension, soon to come HoloLens extension. And we just go ahead and add that in. So we add this extension in, and now we have the ability to use all of these functions within our application. So really great, really easy to do that. And you can see we have our phone contract right here, and we can bring in our UI input, and we can just use our any camera event arguments. We could hardwire that right up into our application. So those are mine and Kat's 3 favorite UI differences between both Windows 8.1 and Windows 10, and also just pretty cool how easy they are to build in XAML, and how quickly they move, and how seamlessly they move between both of the applications. Alright, well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and make sure to follow my blog and look for me on Twitter at AskTheData. I'll also be posting to Channel 9, and soon we'll be resuming more talks on both Azure and Big Data, and a little bit of intermix with Windows 10. So I will be talking to all of you guys soon. Thanks.